Hey, 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 welcome to the Way of Valor, folks. I am your host, Angie Taylor, and it is a beautiful day here in Texas. And as always, such a pleasure to have you guys listening today. Today, mamas, ladies, this podcast is for you. I'm really excited about this one because typically when we're doing podcasts, a lot of times we're interviewing people that are experts in parenting, or they're experts on marriage, or they're experts on all these things. This podcast is just for you, ladies. And I'm really, really excited to bring you something that helps heal your soul, care for your soul as well. Today I have with me Kathy Branning. She is the author of 2 books. It sounds like it's going to be more than 2 as we go, but one is "'Tis So Sweet." And the second is "It's an Inside Job." And these are both Christian fiction books. But what I love is she's used such a cool phrase that I have not heard before, is solutions through entertainment. The reality is we all need hope. We all need healing at some point in our life. And she has done a brilliant job of writing books that are both enjoyable for you to read, but also bring those moments of aha and healing into your soul. So Kathy, welcome to the Way of Valor.
Thank you, Angie. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, it's so exciting to have you. Kathy actually has her daughter in Valor Global Online, a 10th grader that we're very excited about. And so that's how we are connected. But she's also an author, and I just love her story of how she got here. And so I would love for you to unpack for us, tell us a little bit about the book, but I'd really love the root origin of why you wrote the book.
Absolutely. So it's a series it'll be 3 short stories. Right now, just 2 are published. I will finish the 3rd by May. That is my goal.
Good.
Tales of an Innkeeper. So my dream is to own an inn one day. So I really leaned into that. So it's just all these fun, crazy adventures of what it's like to run an inn. I've done research. I haven't actually done it. And through it all, the main character really processes grief, family reconciliation, marriage strife, parenting issues, friendship relationships, and running a business. So it's kind of like the whole gamut, and through it all, she really leans into God and His guidance and His word.
I love that. So the process of writing the book was actually really healing in your own life and in your own journey. So share a little bit more about how it is that you became an author.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2020, my dad passed away, and we didn't have the best relationship. We hadn't spoken for many years. He just didn't want to be a father. So I had already grieved a little bit the loss of a father. So when he passed, it was more grieving an unanswered prayer, because we'd been praying for him to come back in the fold and to be a father and be in our family. And we didn't see that. So it was actually even like a crisis of faith. I had to come and say, God, do I actually believe that you are good and that you are who you say you are? And what does it mean that you're my father? And then I went into Christian counseling as well, just to have some tools to deal with everything that was going on. And the best thing is that she used my creativity, and she suggested to do creative writing to process my grief. And that's where this was birthed. The first chapter of this book was me sitting down and processing a day in the life. If I had everything that I needed to have my ideal life, what would that look like?
I love that. And the story unfolds from there. But I'm curious is if you're talking to a woman right now, because it is amazing to me, and I cannot stress this enough, even for us as parents. You always have a longing to be in good relationship with your mother and father, always. Like that's just innate within all of us. So you've experienced a really tough journey with some unanswered prayers. So what would you say to the ladies that are sitting in that space right now of, man, I don't have a great relationship with one of my parents. And I do feel like I have a hole inside of me and a longing inside of me that's not getting fixed.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like the answer is to lean in and like, ask God the tough questions. He can take it, if you,
Mm-hmm.
because usually with those feelings, you have this anger and almost feelings of injustice. And the reality is, I believe that God's perfect design was that we would have these parents who loved us and called out our identity as children of God and pointed us towards them and nurtured us, in the way He intended. And so many people lack that. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that God cares about that and He
Yeah.
can fill those places Himself. So I think it's just really leaning into Him and letting Him, like, into those places of hurt
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
um emptiness and whatever, XYZ, fill in the blanks of the feelings.
Yeah. Close the gap for us on how you discovered your confidence, your God given identity, when the relationship with your father would have been one that made you feel like, I am simply not enough to be loved. And so, how did that gap
Oh,
close for you? Because that is a constant conversation that I have with both adult women. I mean, all of us
yeah.
are running with that false narrative, and it often comes from our parents.
Well, how much time do we have? And
Yeah,
I'm just
right,
kidding.
right.
It's like a laundry bag,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely was that wounded little girl who didn't believe in myself. I mean, when I was in high school, if somebody asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, like, I had no answer. I learned very early on that you just don't dream. It's safer to not
Mm,
dream. And
mm,
but I also had this deep knowing that I needed Jesus. Like, I was
mhm.
desperate for him and couldn't actually live without him. And so it took many times of messing up and looking for love elsewhere.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
all the while knowing that Jesus was the only thing that was really going to save me.
mhm,
And I think, you know, once I really understood that my worth wasn't in what I did, wasn't in performance, it wasn't in
mhm.
my talents,
Yeah,
anything surface. It was really just about being a daughter to
mhm,
God.
yeah,
Um, then it kind of actually took the weight off, right?
yeah,
Because now anything I do isn't about me.
mm,
It's it's a it's coming from my daughtership. That's
mm.
not a word,
Good.
but you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
no, that's good, that's good.
Um, it's like, because he already loves me.
Mhm,
I can't recall the exact scripture, but it says, I already have approved of you in the
that's
word. And
good.
like, and it stuck with me, it's
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
um, I have a perfect loving father who's
Yeah,
already approved of me. And it took years of
right.
words of affirmation. Like, I still have post-its in my
Mhm,
closet that
mhm.
say, scriptures of who God says I am,
Mhm.
because I forget,
Yep.
it's so easy to
Mhm.
get caught up in
Yep.
the swirl, call it.
Yeah. That's really good. I love, you pointed on something that we often doesn't get talked about, but I think is really important is you talked about you weren't dreaming anymore,
Mhm.
and especially being somebody who lends themselves to the creative spaces, dreaming is such an important facet of who you are, and really discovering your identity unlocked your dreamer. And so I'd love for you to kind of unpack that, because I have a lot of ladies that are like, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't really have any dreams. I am just going through the motions day to day. And I would love for you to talk to that woman.
Yeah, actually, you just like got me really excited because this is like one of my favorite things to talk about. And it's the phrase I'm sure you've heard it, dreaming with God,
Mm,
right? So again, it goes into like what is our identity? Because if we're leaning on our own understanding, like
right.
we've gotten lost before we even started.
Good.
And dreaming with God is exponentially better because His plans for our life we know are good
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
perfect. And so when we dream with Him, like it's just way more fun. So let's see, where was I going with that? Sorry. Um,
We were talking about that failure to dream, how you
yeah,
really, and I see this
praise
a
that.
lot when people are wounded. In order to self-preserve and protect, they shut down
Mhm.
their emotions, and they shut down that side of them as if it might protect them from further wounds.
Yeah. So, so this is something I learned back when we were doing foster care. We were foster parents for about 4 years, and it translates into every area of your life. This is what I learned is that um, people would always ask us like, how are you foster parents? Like it would just hurt so much to have to give the kid back. I could never do it. And I really, just to be perfectly honest, I got really sick of hearing that. And so I had to come up with kind of like the
So
blanket
don't say
response.
that. If you know foster parents, don't
Yeah,
say that
don't
one.
say that.
Come up with a new one.
Because then
Pro
it,
tip.
it kind of conveys that, like, we have a heart of steel and it doesn't bother
Yeah.
us. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I digress. Uh, why would I be afraid to have my heart broken when my best friend is the healer?
Woo! That's good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, translate into everything, right? So if we're afraid to dream, then the root of that is actually that we don't trust that God has a good, perfect plan for us, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it can go into like dating and marriage, right?
Yeah.
Like people are afraid to give their heart away in
Yeah.
any gamut.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it's a trust issue.
Yeah.
And so when we can say, absolutely, God, I trust you 100% with my life, have your will. Like, how many times do we say that? But we have to actually mean it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then dreaming can become fun.
Yeah.
And again, like, I always tell my husband this because he's the, kind of more stable one. I'm the creative whimsy one. And I'm like, babe, just because we're dreaming about it doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and like drop,
Yeah.
$10,000 tomorrow and make,
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the process.
Yeah.
And I think even being in the process of dreaming, um, like allows us to be fully more ourselves with the Lord.
Yeah.
Um, when we bring it to him. That's why I say dreaming with God,
Yeah.
right? So
I
I
love
did this little vision board night with my women's group, and I was like, yeah, so we're going to put our dreams down. We're going to cut out magazine pictures and things that we want for our lives. We're going to dream
Mm-hmm.
and put those down. But then at the end of the night, we're going to pray over these and we're going to submit them to God and say, even if
Yeah.
I see nothing on this board come to fruition, Jesus, you're enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I think of the Ephesians 3:20, to him who is able to do above and beyond all that we
Yeah.
could even think to ask, and I just am mindful of when we think we're self-protecting, right? We're actually dying a little bit slowly and deadening our soul day after
Absolutely.
day to the power of God. I've often been asked, why don't we see God's sized miracles today? And the truth is, man, I see them everywhere. I see them everywhere, and I've seen them in my own life. But you have to be willing to put yourself in a position of seeing God-sized miracles, right? Which means Man, I am, and that was very much the start of Valor for me of, I don't have money. I don't have the building. I'm not sure where the resources are going to come from, but I'm going to tell everybody I know, we're starting a school, and when you step into God-sized obedience and dreaming, and that willingness to be vulnerable of, if it's on me, I think of your book series of, just when you're willing to take your vulnerability and place it in the hands of God, what he opens up not only heals, it's so the nature of God that not only on your journey to writing this, that he healed you, but he will heal thousands of others
Mm,
as a result of your faithfulness and your testimony to him. And, all of a sudden your journey becomes, oh, this all now makes sense. The heart of a good father
yeah,
is for me, and he wants to give me good gifts, and he wants to flow through me in a
absolutely.
generous way. And I love that not only do you get your healing, because he's not a user God. He's not going to just simply use you and then move on from you. Right. He's like, he wants to partner with you
Yeah,
on this journey. But when he does it, he fills you. He brings such beyond anything, like currently today, Valor is beyond what I pictured. And I know there's so much more, but that's the way God shows up and his generosity in this space. And it is a lie that the enemy would foist upon us. We forfeit the power of God in our life when we're in my heart can't be broken. I don't want to put myself out there. I'm not enough. Like, those are all the enemy's plans for our life.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I glean a lot from the life of Joseph.
Mm,
Like, I mean, I always joke, like, if my brother could have sold me into slavery, he absolutely would have. He would have left me in
mm.
a cistern, like the whole gamut. But I mean, what the devil meant for evil, God
Yes.
uses for his glory. And
Mhm.
so, look at what happened. He had this dream and he's like, I'm gonna be great. And then all of a sudden, slam,
Right.
nothing. And then he goes and like gets in a position and then he goes to jail. And then
Right.
and then he's like second in Egypt. And it's like he goes through these things, but then you see God's redemption in his life. You see God's reconciliation because then he gets to be restored with his family.
Yeah.
And he's used
Yeah.
by God to
Yeah.
like save a people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so it's like it's just huge when you think that you're in an impossible place.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
God is bigger than that in
Yeah.
any.
I love that. And when we were talking earlier, even about your book writing process and stuff, you said something that I think is so key. A lot of times our knee jerk reaction when we're in that vulnerable painful place, or we're in that insecure place, is to isolate.
Yeah.
But that's not what you did with your story. So talk about how, like, because you weren't just naturally an author.
No.
Like that just so talk about that journey, because I think you did something that every woman needs to hear right now that is key to your overall success.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Okay. Hopefully I'm right.
Yeah.
So I wrote The Day in the Life, right? And everything I've written before, it's typically more like lyrics for worship music. Well, because I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But it never seemed good enough, so I would just throw it away. And then I'm writing this Day in the Life, the first chapter of Tis So Sweet, and I finish and I'm like, I feel like this is actually good, which is just, I mean, the fact that I would even say anything I made was good was so
Mm,
not me.
mm,
And so I pulled my husband in and I asked him to read it. And he was like, this is the first chapter of a book.
mm.
You need to keep writing this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then your next step was to actually seek out a group of
Yeah.
women who knew what they were doing on writing books.
Yeah.
right?
And I went to a writing workshop and got all the tools that I needed, and prepared myself for all the no's I was going to hear because I really did want to be published by an actual publisher.
Mhm.
I knew the self publishing was the easy route,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
something in me was like, I need a publisher.
Which I love that. So how many no's did you get before you got published?
Zero. I know. Again, it is God,
Now,
absolutely God.
congratulations on that. What a big deal. Because, I was prepared for you to go, I got 20 no's, but I kept going,
I
which
know.
that's a lesson in all in of itself. But I love
Yeah.
that God honored your obedience and your faithful step. And the women, I think the thing that in her story, you hear it in such a profound way that putting her gifts into the world actually brought healing to her soul.
Absolutely.
Like God wants to bring you outside of yourself to bring healing. And then the next thing is if your dreamer's broken, you're not quite sure, get in the room, get around people
Yeah.
that are doing what you want to do, that are dreaming for the safe people that you share your dream with. Frankly, I shared the dream of valor with a bunch of people that were like, that will never work. That's never going to
Mhm.
work. And, those are not the people
Yeah.
to initially, I've learned a lot over the years of who I share my dreams with and
Yeah.
who I partner with. Cause that's so key. I am so excited to get this book into the hands of our ladies. So tell us where we find it and where we get more of
So
you.
it's in Amazon, it's in Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, but the easiest way to get it is kathybranning.com because then
Great.
I have all the links that you need in one place.
Good. And then do you have any social pages that you're
Yeah,
posted?
Facebook, Kathy Branning, very
Mhm.
easy. And then Instagram, Kathy B Sings. Everybody keeps telling me I should just change it to my full name, but
Yeah.
I like it. It's Kathy little B Sings, Singz.
Awesome. And we will definitely, ladies, go give her a follow. Go grab this book, man. I am somebody that has historically only read nonfiction books. And then I ended up on this, just the academic side of me was always like, oh, I want it to be factual, but ended up on a vacation one time reading a nonfiction book, realizing my soul was still working the whole time.
Yep.
Because I always read stuff that helped me with my job or helped me with develop and I didn't read fiction books. And so I discovered a love of fiction books first on vacation. Now I actually read them also while not on vacation, like in the evenings and stuff, because I find they are restful. Like they're so much more restful for me. So if you're kind of like me, that maybe fiction books haven't been your jam, I just so encourage you to jump in. I love books like this that come with something so meaningful and powerful on the journey. We're so excited to share this out in the world with everyone and can't wait for
Thank
number 3.
you. Yes.
Any parting words before we jump off here?
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Our pleasure. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. If today was helpful, inspiring for you, give us a 5-star review and share it out with your friends. We need to get this book. We want to see more stuff like this out there in Barnes and Noble. I love that you're in Barnes and Noble, by the way. Congrats. I think
Thank
that's
you.
great. And if we want to get more of that in, we need to go buy the book and get behind this kind of stuff because I love that you said solutions through entertainment. And holy shmoly, wouldn't our world be a better place if the creators in the world of entertainment
Mm.
were thinking in a solutions mindset rather than dumping the toxin into the world that they're dumping. So you want to see more stuff like that, you got to go support it and get behind it. So thanks for listening, guys. Have a blessed day.